At a time when our planet and humanity is being deeply challenged, having a sense of community and support is imperative. But together, we can and will individually raise our consciousness, which will lead to communally raising it, and ultimately raise the consciousness of this planet. So tonight, please bring your feelings in the comments.
Hi, welcome to Bring Your Feelings, a space where together we can express, connect, and support each other at a time when our planet and humanity is being deeply challenged. Tonight, we invite you to please share how you're feeling in the comments or just how we can support you tonight. My name is Miriam. I'm a psychic medium and teacher of spirituality. Meet Meg, a nurse and travel and lifestyle creator with a passion for helping others in storytelling. Meg inspires her communities of over 1 million to embrace resilience, joy, adventure, and everyday. Links to all our socials will be below in the description. So again, share with us tonight in the comments 2 words describing how you're feeling tonight. We're going to start with a meditation, 60 seconds. But before we do, let's say hi to Meg.
Hi.
How are you feeling tonight?
Really good. I would say, thinking back to where I was last week, this week is a better week.
That's always nice to hear.
For sure.
And anyone who's on Instagram, just know that we can't see your comments. So either jump over to my YouTube or Meg's YouTube, or we'll be, checking our comments on Instagram as we go. Just don't want you to think you've been forgotten. We're going to start tonight with a 60-second meditation, and then see if for anyone who hasn't meditated before, this is simply 60 seconds to allow yourself to kind of sink into the present and be okay with where you're at. I'm going to, so just get to a comfortable position, even if you're just seated, as long as you're not driving. And I'm going to put this little banner up so anyone who moves through knows that we're doing this. I've got my alarm set for 60 seconds.
For 60 minutes.
Yeah, last week I had it set for 60 minutes and I was like, why is this not ending? All right. So we're going to start with 3 releasing breaths. So when I say 3 releasing breaths, we're going to take a deep inhale through the nose, and on your exhale, I want you to really blow out, like release the day. All right. So here we go. Deep inhale through the nose. Exhale. Blow it out. Deep inhale through the nose and blow it out. One more time. Deep inhale through the nose and exhale, blow it out. So just allow the shoulders to pull away from the ears. Notice if the eyes are gently closed or maybe they're squeezed a little tight, and see if you can release the tension in the eyes. Relaxing the forehead, allowing the jaw to let go. Wiggle the fingers and the toes to make sure they're not clenched. Just for a moment, allow the body to just sink into the earth. Whether you're sinking into the chair, sinking into the floor, just really let yourself go. And then for 3 breaths, I just want you to listen to your breathing. You can place a hand over the belly, over your chest. Just listen to your breath. And then whenever you're ready, just gently open the eyes and notice how you feel. 60 seconds. 60 seconds. Not too bad, right?
Was that 60 seconds?
Yeah.
I
I
think-
actually went longer.
Yeah?
I did.
Oh, wow.
Did it feel short?
Yeah, it felt super short.
Mhm. Yeah, I know. That's why I went a little bit longer. I was like, I'm going to take it upon myself to assume people are ready for a little bit longer.
So
That's why I always tell people 60 seconds, because it goes by so quick and then you're wanting more, right? Versus putting 10 minutes and then being like, oh, we're still going. So we have Deanna tonight. Deanna's grieving.
I got a comment on Instagram as well from hometown Gamma with the same comment. That's really interesting.
So let's talk about that.
Hmm.
Deanna, is there anything more you'd like to add to that right now? Or is that all we've got, which is perfectly fine? Same person.
Oh, it's the same person. Okay.
So grief. Mm,
Grief is a big word. That's a big, heavy word. Oh,
mm.
sorry, Gianna.
Oh, Deanna. So why don't you share with us a couple of things that you really love about your husband? Let's talk about him a little bit. I bet there's some like just great stuff you'd love to share or remember if you want. All of it is completely up to you. You don't have to by any means.
Or his name. I'd love to hear his name.
Mhm.
Oh, don't we all want? He made me feel very seen. Wow. Oh, that makes me emotional. That's so
I
neat.
know. I don't really have a lot to say.
That's what everybody wants. His name's Travis. That's beautiful. Oh, good job, Travis. Loving your woman. We found each other after failed relationships. So left old karma, old lessons behind and found each other. Oh, how grateful we are. I definitely am grateful for the failed relationships in my life that have taken me to better love and better places.
Mhm.
I'm glad you found your Travis.
Deanna, if there's anything I can share that I would that I tend to share with those that are grieving, because I feel like we all, for the most part, sort of understand the process. It just, nothing fixes it or takes anything away or makes anything better. But the more that we allow ourselves to grieve, grieving is actually the process of allowing the physical forms, the energetic tie physically to separate so that you can immerse yourself now in his soul field and you can communicate soul to soul. So there's this sense of learning his language, right? You're just looking now to learn his language because he is very, very close and is going to be there as long as you need him there. So it allows you the time to grieve, however long that takes and lasts. And in that grief, each time you grieve, you understand that there's a disconnect happening in a positive way. So when you allow that disconnect to happen physically, we don't lose memories, we don't lose connection, we actually gain connection, because in that process you're learning how to speak his language now, soul to soul. And that will ultimately bring us closer. That's when we start to feel that understanding that when we lose those that we love, they actually never go away. You start to genuinely feel their presence around you. And you might feel that now already. And all that's going to do is heighten that and allow that to be a source of healing for you. And that's where we learn this sense of trust and understanding that we are more than these bodies.
Oh, right coronary artery.
Is that what that is?
It's one of the largest arteries in the heart. He let me be accepted as I was. I never wanted to change. Oh, I think that's a really big deal. There is a comment here on Instagram from Gigi, and she says, I feel overwhelmed. I feel so invalidated. I'd like to hear a little bit about the overwhelm and the invalidation, because sometimes that, I think we talked about this on one of our first sessions, how those are so closely related.
I'm not validated. That is from Gigi?
Yes.
Let me see if I got this right. Is that what she's feeling?
Yeah, feeling overwhelmed.
Okay, and you, Meg, repeat what you said. Sorry, because I was typing when you were speaking.
Yeah, so those two things of feeling overwhelmed and invalidated, feeling overwhelmed like this is too much, or this situation or these feelings are too much, and maybe no one really understands what I'm going through, or no one really gets how bad it is. Also, because as women, we're such good actresses, we're always like, everything's great, and look how I'm still functioning, and look how I'm still able to shower and show up for things, even though we're like dying inside. And I think that's sometimes part of that invalidation, because a lot of us don't have a safe place to go and just be honest. But Gigi, if you're still here, how do I see who's on the OIC? So if you're still watching and you want to add exactly maybe what you want to talk about or what that means to you, this is definitely a safe place if you want to share maybe what you feel overwhelmed with, or if we can help just with the validation of your feelings, just somebody to listen and talk to.
Gigi, is it a fair question to ask? Is there, if we look at overwhelmed, is there something in your day-to-day or in your life that you can take off your plate? And maybe that's not something you answer tonight. Maybe that's something you answer after you've exercised or done a meditation, or you're in like a space where you're feeling a little bit more balanced, so you can look at situations, tasks, events in your life and really without that emotional lens, and be able to say, you know what, I really don't need this or that, or I can change this or that. Yeah, I'll leave it at that. See if what that question feels like for you.
Right here, didn't protect enough my daughter in the restraining order, and she has supervised visits with her dad.
You want to address you know that, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can definitely maybe speak to that in a sensitive way, because I won't say an exact replica of your situation, but I understand that I have a daughter. There is a father figure. There's separate custody. Those elements I can absolutely relate to. And there's a lot of protection and love that we can offer to our kids when we're with them. And it's a scary thought to realize we can't protect them from everything, but we can build their own strength and a strainer through the world, being able to recognize manipulation, being able to recognize when even a grown-up is not having our best interest, where certain lines should be drawn of appropriate, inappropriate, and how we can be the anchor and we can be the safe place for them to say, this and this happened, this and this didn't happen, this made me uncomfortable. A lot of body autonomy is something big that I teach with my kids that I did not get taught when I was a kid. It was like, respect the adults, respect your authority. And it was never, you should have boundaries with adults as well. So my best advice, which is what I wish I had growing up, is definitely teach that autonomy, where the lines that you can draw, communication, that you're a safe place to communicate anything that feels a little bit uncomfortable, and to recognize the signs of manipulation or abuse and where those lines are.
And maybe to add that forgiving yourself for making, it sounds like you feel like you made a mistake. And on one hand, we say there are no mistakes. Everything absolutely does happen for a reason. And those reasons, if we allow ourselves to see those reasons from a larger viewpoint, are easier to accept and understand. But also, you're human behaving as a human, and humans aren't robots, and humans will make different choices at different times for different reasons. And I also know that parents tend to be really hard on themselves, and they sometimes think or feel they've made mistakes, and they or done something wrong. And when I hear their stories, it's very rare when you speak with someone who is committed to their child and loves their children first and foremost. These aren't mistakes we're making. We're just, as cliche as it sounds, you're doing the best you can in that moment, full stop. And the best you can always does have your child's best interest at heart. And I think that we tend to, women and parent mothers especially, blame themselves when I might put money on it that you didn't make a mistake there and you're beating yourself up unnecessarily.
I think that's something that, especially as mothers, we take on because we become the head of the house. We run everything in the house. We run everyone's feelings. We run all of the background mental load of the entire house. And we want to be able to essentially control everything, because that's how everything flows smoothly, is if we control everything. So when we pick somebody who is not the best partner, or someone who we bring into our life that hurts our children, we blame ourselves before we ever put blame on that other person. And it's so messed up, because it's also the dynamic that attracts that type of person. Because I know that that's how I have attracted abusive people in the past, is I'll help you cover it up. It's probably my fault. I'll be the first one to apologize. I'll take it all on. And sometimes it's time to let that go and drop that and be like, okay, actually, he was an asshole. And that is not an okay person. And it's not my fault that I picked that person. Because that person picked you. And maybe they chose you because you were going to be easily manipulated. You were that perfect, balance. Maybe you had all of the joy and life and social skills and things that they wish they had. And that's why they partnered up with you and tried to, take advantage of you and take advantage of your children. But it's not something that you need to self-blame yourself for, is other people's actions. Because I carried that for a long time. It's like, I chose the wrong person. I chose someone who was abusive and unkind and would, the list of things. Why would it be my fault that I chose someone that behaved that way? That's not my burden. That's not my shame to carry.
I mean, if I'm hearing you correctly, it's like we're separating these two. We're saying, okay, I take responsibility for falling in love with him, but I didn't fall in love with his abusive tendencies, and
Yeah.
I didn't. That's not what I signed on for.
Exactly. That's a perfect way to say that.
But would you also say that uh, with the understanding that everything you went through, and maybe it's still new for you, because I know this is what you're going through, Meg, is still new, but it is shaping you into a woman that you didn't know you were. And I mean that in a positive way. It's showing you this strength and fire and fight that you didn't know you had before. And it's forcing you into these new areas of life and living and experience and creativity that you never would have entered had this not happened.
I agree with that now.
Right,
6 months ago,
right.
I probably would not have agreed with that. But there is so much growth that needed to happen, and there's so
Mhm.
much character building that I don't think there's any other way that I would have been forced into the independence, into the confidence, into the clarity that I have now, unless it was all torn down.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I needed to be the one tearing it down because it was almost like fate, God, the universe was like, really, you're not going to leave? Really?
Mhm.
Like, I've given you so many chances. And now I'm going to make it real easy because I'm going to bulldoze everything. And you'll have
Mhm.
no other choice but to leave and start over. So I am grateful for that because I didn't have the strength or the mental clarity or even just the confidence to be like, all right, I'm out of here. I could do
Right.
this.
Right. I mean, you grew so much, and it's been a year, hasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, it's crazy that how much you grew, how quickly, where you came from that when it happened to where you are now. And um yeah, and to be able to accept everything it's taught you. That's hard. It's hard, but it's easy when you're on the other side. It's easier once you're on the
Yes.
other side.
Yes. That's like what I tell my nursing school students. They have like a big test at the end that they got to get their license, and they will obsess over this test. And it is like the biggest obstacle. And then when it's behind them, they're like, oh, that's not that big of a deal. I'm like, yeah, you made it your whole life and you would wake up anxious and you'd have
Mm.
nightmares. And then once it's done and you pass it, you're like, oh, wasn't that big of a deal.
Isn't that interesting?
Sometimes we just create these like mountains and hurdles. And then you get over the hurdle and you're like, oh, that was so tiny. That wasn't
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah. Yeah. I think we all do that with everything, anything we're trying to achieve, right? And I think there's a positive to that consumption where we consume it and we allow it to consume us. It's how we succeed, right? It can be how we succeed if we allow ourselves to be consumed in a positive way of fighting for it, working for it, and I think that look being able to be on the other side and going, oh, well, that wasn't as hard as I thought. I think that shows that you've grown, that you didn't realize you had that fight in you, and all of a sudden that fight is now, you found that fight, you used it, it worked, and now it lives in you.
Yeah.
And there's this sense of, oh, it wasn't that hard, but it really was hard. Going
It
through it
was, but
was
it
hard.
was like I created a reality of like hard is impossible, or I can't do hard, or I can't do
Mm.
impossible, or something.
Mhm.
There's this
Mhm.
movie that I love, and I've seen it probably 700 times, and it's called I'm Not an Easy Man. And
Mm.
it like translates, it's a French movie. It translates into like I'm not a slut, but like the man version of a slut in French.
Mhm.
And this very chauvinist man hits his head and he flips into this reality where women rule the world and women are the dominating force and women are the presidents and everything is made for women and they get all of the leadership positions, and it shows men who take on the role of, oh well, I'm weak, and oh well, that's something that women can do. And it really makes you think about what we take on and what we believe for ourselves.
Oh, wow. I need
And
to see that movie.
oh my gosh, it's so good. I think it's still on Netflix. But there was a lot of things that I believed like, oh, that's too scary, that's too hard, that's financial
Mhm.
literacy, or, buying a house, or being on my own, or, driving an RV, or like anything that seems like, oh, men do it or something. But
Mhm.
how hard can it be? Boys do it. If men can do it, it's probably really
Mhm.
easy. And that's something that I had to like rewire my brain against. And that movie really helped. Especially these men would take on these roles of like, the women would just sleep around, and the men would then take on, oh, I feel so worthless because I wasn't chosen
Oh, wow. I
by
gotta
the
see
woman.
this.
Or they would put somebody on a pedestal and be like, oh, I could never be that. And it's like you take on what you believe.
Yeah.
If you think something is too scary and too hard, it will be. But if you
Yeah.
think, look, other people have done it, I could definitely do that.
God, that's so cool. You got to share with us the name of that movie before this is over. I want to see it.
I'm not an easy man.
Oh, that's easy. I'll remember that. Hold on, I'm writing it
Not an
down.
easy man on Netflix.
Sorry, I'm writing it down. Because I won't remember. Okay. Why do you think being good or positive is always so much harder than the opposite? Violet
Ooh,
always brings the good
I
questions.
know. Violet, are you like a writer? Because sometimes you get really deep.
Mm,
And I'm like, ooh.
she brings good questions. So there's a lot of, I feel like there's a lot of different reasons, but I'll give you a couple that stand out the most for me. Uh, because you know the saying, misery loves company? It's very powerful because when we are being successful or finding success, you will notice you won't have as many people around you as when you are suffering. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, because a lot of times when we're suffering, people will come out of the woodwork to help us and support us. But if you notice when things are going well and you're successful, and I don't mean like literally like you just got a raise or you just got a promotion. I just mean like you're doing okay. Like life is good. Have you ever noticed? I have that if you're hanging out with a friend or you're catching up with someone or you just talking with someone at work, they'll be like, "Well, how are you?" And I'm like, "Everything's good." And you just sort of sit there and look at each other.
Yeah. Like, oh, you don't need help. You don't need support.
So what do we talk about? What do we do? So then you kind of go to the next gossipy thing to discuss. Did you hear about so and so? Did you hear what they're going through? Now, again, I'm taking that to sort of an extreme because a lot of times, again, when we're suffering, people come out to help and support. But that is a fair statement to make, it that if you've noticed when things are going well, you don't have as many people around and you won't relate as much to a lot of people in your life, because a lot of people in your life are there because you relate to the suffering. And I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying don't be friends with them. I'm just saying there's a relatable suffering. For example, being at a job, everyone tends to gather around the boss and hate the boss or complain about the boss
Yeah.
or whatever. So you have a mutual suffering that's happening. But if you're in a situation where you actually enjoy your boss and you get along, and for the most part, they're great and there's not that much to complain about, does that isolate you from other people at your job? Are you not getting along with those or others, or are you looking like someone who now kisses butt? And do you see how all of a sudden everything shifts
Yeah.
if you aren't suffering? So to take that then over to what you're saying, how that affects you internally, because you don't want to be alone, right? We don't want to be alone. We don't want to be without support. We want to be a part of something. We want to be a part of a group at work. We don't want to be isolated. And even within your own family or even with your partner, when you're talking to your partner, how much of that conversation is, and I'm not saying forced positivity, no, because we all know that's toxic and not right, but how much of that conversation with family or partners is
Focusing on,
uplifting?
yeah. There is a part of, not to bring it back to science, but there is a part of our dopamine receptors that are triggered, and we get addicted to that when we feel pity for ourselves, or that pity party, or when we feel anger. There's a part of that that we actually get addicted to, and it gives us a little dopamine hit of like, oh, poor me, or like that anger, like frustration response, or yelling response. We can get addicted to that.
I love that science knows that. That's huge.
Science proves the stuff that we already know all the
Validates it.
time. Who would think that if our nature was to be good, we would just be? I feel like when push comes to shove, when I've seen it so many times that I can think of a million examples of somebody breaks down on the side of the road, other people come to help push the car. When there's a little kid who's lost, especially all of the women, hey, like, or when I lived on Miami Beach and I was taking a walk late at night, and there was this guy who was literally like pushing and shoving and slapping a woman, and so many people came out and was like, no, 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 like, this is not okay. I do think that there's a lot of our nature that's good, and people do want to help. I think in our society that's a little bit isolated, it takes a little bit more push for people to get involved with each other. But I think a lot of people are basically good and want good things for themselves and other people.
I agree. I agree. Also, you could drill down even more to even television, movies. It's all created around a problem, right?
Yeah, I don't think sitcoms would be very interesting if there was no problem.
Right. And to be fair, there's always problems, but I think if we started to break down everything that we're watching or hearing or listening to, or everything seems to be created around a problem that is painful. And I think though that's all really important and necessary, and we don't lose that. But you just have to kind of ask yourself, is it literally, like you just said, science has proven that there's this dopamine hit that we get, which is why we keep gravitating towards it.
Yeah.
Let's be at best uninvolved. Yeah, I think it depends on, I don't know. I think if you look outside right now, especially with the climate of the world, or let's just say the United States, there's a march coming up this weekend, and they're expecting it to be the biggest march ever in the history of the United States. And that's people getting involved,
Yeah.
right?
I think maybe before we were a little bit uninvolved, and it was like I don't want to pry, I don't want to be a burden. There was a little bit of that, especially in the 90s. Like maybe I saw that in my mom and her friends of like, oh, so and so had surgery. Like, should we go over? We shouldn't pry. We shouldn't bother them. We'll leave a casserole on or we'll send food, or I don't want to bother them. I want to give them their space. And I see that scale tipping a little bit, especially with this next generation, especially with millennials, where, we're a little bit more likely to be like, do you need something? I would love to like help you. Do you want me to stay over? Do you want me to cook you something? Do you want me to DoorDash you something? I see that people getting a little bit more involved.
I think Violet would maybe, what we're looking at for you is becoming comfortable with more of an independent sense of joy within yourself that doesn't come from an outside stimuli.
Yeah.
And I know that you're doing meditation because that's the way to start for sure. But I would also ask, are you doing things creatively, whatever creative means for you? Everyone's version of creativity is different. That's fulfilling you. That's giving you a sense of purpose, and or finding local, whether it's rescues or places around in your neighborhood where you're seeing people come together and you can be a part of that. Maybe I'm jaded because I work with teenage students and don't have a lot of hope.
Yeah, expand your people, expand your groups. I would
I'm sorry, I laughed at what she said. She basically is like, we're screwed because I'm working with the youth.
I mean, I think the youth are looking at us and being like, "Are we screwed?"
I
It's
know.
we're not
I
screwed.
was, I was just thinking the other night, I was like, listen, um, there's something to learn from every generation. There's something to learn from the youngsters, or something to learn from the elders, or something to learn from everyone in between. Teenagers, I'm not a teacher and I'm not a mother, but I am an aunt. And teenagers are the worst. Sorry, but
Yeah.
they're just like, I've watched my mom and my sisters just get their asses kicked from their kids during their teen years. And if you're teaching just teenagers,
Oh,
God help you. No wonder
okay, Violet.
no wonder she's pissed off and hates the world. I
But
mean,
thank
that's
you.
rough.
Thank you for doing that. I remember I've gone to my kids' schools. You know how they do like a teach-in, like the parents can come and be like, "This is what I do for work," like career day.
Mm-hmm.
I've done that a couple times, and I only had to be there for maybe an hour and
Mm-hmm.
talk for like 15 minutes maybe. But every time I went, I left exhausted. I was like, "Oh my God, I can't." Working with kids all day is so draining. And that's why I'll never work on a pediatric floor ever.
So, Violet, I don't know. I'm just taking a big old swing here out of nowhere. What if you went and worked with adults? What if you went to a community college, and what if you switched careers? I'm not saying, and listen, I joke about teens being the worst, but I was the worst, and my nieces were the worst. So, I mean, that's three of us. And my sisters, I mean, listen, and the stories my mom has, teenagers are rough.
Mm.
And you've done it, you've paid your dues, you've helped them. Now maybe it's time to
You put in
allow,
your time.
yeah, allow yourself. Well, if you could teach or be of service to any group, who would that be? Let's do it,
Oh, I like the way you said that, like be of service to a group.
because you're
I just
definitely of
got
service. Yeah.
I just got a um, message on Instagram. I think she hopped off. Hold on. Oh no, she's still here. So a Nudgy, it's ANUHG, says, I saw and spoke to my therapist today, and I was telling her that I'm starting to regain my happy self after many years after my horrible marriage. And then she added at the end, I have my kids 90% of the time. Very important detail. Because that's very difficult and very draining, to have your kids 100% of the time. Um, with no break, that is difficult, but I love to hear that you have a therapist,
Mhm.
especially after a bad marriage. I think that's really, really important to even just look back and see clearly. It's really difficult to do,
Mhm.
after a bad relationship. And then you're regaining your happy self. I would love to hear a little bit about exactly what that means, like regaining your happy self. Do you feel like you just have more mental capacity to look
Mhm.
around and like feel it and see it? And what does that happy self look like
Mm.
to you?
Good questions. I think too, for all of us, myself included, part of the reason why I'm such an advocate for meditation is because it really allows you to pull back and look at your life from a such a higher perspective, and a more detached perspective. And it just allows you, like, have you ever been like like something like, let's say you have your favorite hairdresser, right? And all of a sudden she's like, hey, guess what? I'm moving away. And you're like, no, I've been seeing you for 15 years. Like, what's going to happen now? And you're just like, you're consumed with like, I'm just using a light example of like, what do I do now? You know, well, because she left, it opened this door. And all of a sudden you're meeting somebody new that you never would have met or you never would have, right? When we have our meditation practice and when we are doing this type of self-care regularly, we actually can start to see those opportunities within the moment and without having it to be this massive rip. Kind of like you said, Meg, where the universe was like, all right, we've tried 4 different times.
9 times. What is wrong with you?
We are coming for you. Yes. And there's sometimes we have to learn the hard. I mean, yeah. I mean, like, I'm not saying we shouldn't learn the hard way. We all do. But we can get to a point in our lives where it doesn't have to be that painful all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for the rainbows. I don't know exactly how to say your name, but it's A Naji. So Anaji. She said positive thoughts. She's starting to have more positive thoughts. I can definitely relate to when you're just stuck in the spiral of like, I'm not where I want to be physically. I'm not where I want to be financially. I don't want Anna. Okay, sorry, Anna. And I got it so wrong. But then slowly as you start to heal, and I don't know if it's just my brain, but my brain really works. It may be years of night shift and working the ER. I'm always thinking of the worst case scenario. I'm always thinking of what is the worst thing that can happen to me? What is the worst thing that can happen to my children?
Oh, wow.
And then like, I got to prepare for that. And I got to make sure that that doesn't happen with anything that I'm preparing for in my business or divorce or health-wise or anything. And then as you start to heal, you come out of that disaster planning mode and you start to have like happy thoughts and positive thoughts of like, oh my gosh, what if this happy thing happened? What if this great thing happened? And that's how I noticed that the healing started, that I wasn't stuck in that spiral of like sadness and this is the worst thing ever.
Sure. So I was thinking earlier, I was like, you know what we could bring to the table is like, what are 3 things you're hopeful for?
Ooh.
Because that kind of aligns with what you're saying, you know?
I love that. What about things for you? What 3 things are you hopeful for?
For me?
Yeah.
That for me personally, my life is going to look a little bit different in the next few months and feel a little bit more settled. That we're going to continue to see people coming together and supporting each other in like immediate ways, neighbors, coworkers, which will inevitably support those that are suffering the most right now. And I'm also hopeful because I found this courage in me that I didn't know I had. And because of all of the hate that's happening in the world, and I've experienced more firsthand than I have in probably my whole life. And I'm realizing I have more courage to step in and speak up. And I'm hopeful that that's going to keep growing for me. How about for you?
Yeah, I think as a collective, I definitely feel like there is this, how do I say this in not a weird, offensive way? Like a collective narcissist collapse. And I see that happening on so many different levels in the next maybe year for a lot of people personally, globally. I definitely see that happening. And that gives me a lot of hope, you know, for people who have been taken advantage of, people with narcissistic tendencies or people in leadership who have hurt other people. I see that collapse. Me personally, my divorce to be finalized and for me to find a new place for me and the kids to live. That is kind of like the only things that I think about. I'm like, please, this is just all I want for Christmas are those two things. So those, I'm very hopeful that early next year, those will happen.
I think I mean, that's ultimately where authentic positivity comes from, right? Is being able to see hope when things feel hopeless, right? And it doesn't mean that we don't go through the struggle. You have to go through periods of being down and feeling hopeless because we have to experience our feelings to their most authentic depth. And then at some point, you allow yourself to say, I deserve something different. I deserve change. I deserve for my life to feel and look a little bit different and brighter and lighter. And that's when hope kicks in because you'll think, well, I've always wanted to do A, B, or C. Maybe I'll try.
Yeah.
And then you become hopeful. And then things sort of trickle down from there.
I hope so. Snowballing.
Snowballing, yeah.
Anna said, I was also in the military. Interesting. I was a single mom in the Navy. I was able to purchase a condo on my own. I'm currently going to school full time. I'm medically retired. I've learned about my own weakness. That is amazing. There's so many amazing women who have like just whatever life threw at them. They're like, I can do it. I'm going to rise above. So Joan just commented on Instagram, my husband died 18 years ago from glioblastoma. My daughter was 15 and my son was 10. Ooh, those are delicate ages. That's kind of like my kids' ages. I had them 100% of the time, 24/7. It was a tough journey. However, we survived the storm. It wasn't easy. And I wonder what your kids would say, like looking back during that time and how they saw you and probably how much they admired you, Joan, and just probably were so thankful that you were their rock. Definitely maybe flip that scale soon and let people take care of you.
I think that internal, that kind of goes to what I was speaking to earlier about just this internal courage you don't realize you have until you're faced with it or forced, or for a lot of parents, when their kids are on the line, you immediately find that courage that's non-negotiable. And then it stays with you, and you're like, you got to the other side and you're like, wow, look what I'm capable of.
Yeah. I have a very close, beautiful friend who says all the time, you're more powerful than you realize. All the time.
It's true.
You're powerful beyond measure. You're powerful beyond measure. And it's like, you have to be reminded.
You do. But that's where the self-care keeps coming back to.
Yes.
That's why I keep coming back to this self-care of meditation, exercise, healthy eating, therapy when you need it, because every time you do a teeny tiny bit of self-care every day, you bring yourself one step closer to that awareness, to where you are very conscious and aware of how powerful you are. And powerful just meaning standing strong in adversity, standing and in that adversity, you aren't going to this place of, oh, maybe they're right. You're just like, no, this is adversity that I've been in front of before. And you power through, you walk through it because you're courageous and confident and clear and you're balanced, and that comes through that daily self-care, even if it's just that 60 seconds of self-care, of journaling or taking a walk by yourself.
And if you won't do it for yourself, like if you feel like it's somehow selfish or like you're like, I have to serve others. There was a study that came out and I just voiced over the podcast that I heard it. And it was about the number one factor whether children will thrive in their adulthood is not the father in the home. It's the happiness of the mother, her ability to thrive. If she has PTSD or depression, or it actually affects the children in adulthood. So if you make yourself a priority and your self-care priority, you're really just doing it for your kids. So if you need that other motivation, there's a little element that you could put in there. You're doing it for your kids.
You know, it's interesting because I grew up with a mother who always went on her walks, always was doing yoga. She was always in her, whether she, like, I remember walking to her bedroom as a little kid and she'd be doing a few minutes of yoga. And I would be like, Mom, Mom, Mom. And she would be like, no, not until I'm done. And her walks were always non-negotiable. She'd go, okay, well, if you want to talk to me, I'm going on a walk. You can come with me or you can wait till I'm back. And all three of us are very, do that. All three of us take care of ourselves. And so that, I mean, for my family, that makes 100% sense. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Tonight was a good night. Thank you, everyone, for sharing. Meg.
Yes.
God, you had a lot of great stuff. Like always, you're always bringing, I feel like, I know you're a nurse, but like your ability to heal goes well beyond your nursing skills. And
oh, wow.
I just really enjoy listening to you speak and respond to what others are feeling and thinking. Is there anything else you want to say tonight before we wrap it up?
No, I think this was a really good hour. Make sure everybody who is still on here, come back next week. Come back next Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern, which would be 3 hours, 7 p.m. Pacific. And just bring whatever was happening with you over the week. If you feel like you have no one to talk to, or maybe you just don't have a safe place to just be like, this is happening. This is the place to do it. And then share it with other people.
Right. We always leave you with a short little inspirational video. So I want you guys to stay tuned for that. But tonight, before you fall asleep, find 3 things that you have to be grateful for. This really, really helps with sleep. And it helps with finding more of that positive, hopeful outlook. And then also don't forget to thank Spirit, God, whomever you worship, for continuing to show you why you are here on this planet during these really challenging times. And don't forget that good things still happen. So we'll leave you with this. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Emma stood in her box this morning, paws tucked close to her chest, watching the quiet world around her come to life. In that stillness, it is easy to see how every creature seeks the same thing: warmth, comfort, and safety. Life can be uncertain and at times unkind, but there are moments that remind us peace still exists. That is why I build my boxes, to give the little ones a place where they can rest, breathe, and feel safe when the world outside becomes too much.